Yeah, I mean, when I read the monologue in the script, I was very moved by it, and it felt just like the truth, like it really hit. And I was excited to get to give it. And Greta and I spent months talking about it and preparing for it, and I had a blast doing it. She gave me so much freedom to explore and try it a bunch of different ways, and I loved it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brian's Badger Lodge. My name is Brian Martinez. I am the host. This is our, monthly, like once a month call in show where I will take feedback, questions, comments, thoughts, ideas from you, the viewer. There should be a link. Now that I'm saying that, I feel like I need to make sure. There should be a link in the description to get into our Discord. I am going to double check to make sure it is up to date. I did drop one in there today, and that will get you into the special call-in Discord. And from there, you'll go into the screening room. Make sure that you don't have to have a camera, just a microphone. You can use your phone if you have Discord on phone. You can also, just use that. And Swashberry is my screener. He will just make sure that your audio settings are working, and he'll get a sense of what it is you want to talk about. Then he'll send a message through the questions, text chat. I will read it aloud and then bring you in and let you have your say. If you want to, it doesn't matter what it is. You can argue with me if you wish. You can maybe point something out that we haven't really noticed. You can ask me my opinion on something. It doesn't even have to be about men's issues. But, I mean, usually everything kind of boils down to that, from what I can tell. So, okay. So, I usually try to bring something... Oh, and shout out to the Rumble gang. Hello, folks on Rumble. Just wanted to say hello to you guys. Please go and subscribe to us over on rumble.com. The channel is HB Radio. It's HB Radio, all lowercase, on Rumble. And that is where we are streaming as well. We're also on Twitch and DLive, Facebook, and X/Twitter. So, okay. So on today's show, I saw some buzz going around on the Twitter's, X, whatever, regarding vasectomies. And I had something else I wanted to talk about on this week's call-in show. But for some reason, I'm like spacing out on it. But I found this. So let me show you what I mean. So Pearl, who loves to start crap on Twitter, and I think it's warranted. I actually really like the stuff that Pearl is doing, because what it comes down to is, I know that some people, say she's a grifter and all these other things, but what it comes down to for me is that Pearl is basically challenging women. And if you're challenging women, in my view, you're doing something right. And that's what Pearl's doing. So she puts out stuff to trigger women, regardless of their politics, because at the end of the day, they're all women. And she does things that a lot of men can't do, even though they want to, or many of them do. And women, generally will not do. So in a way, that makes Pearl kind of like... as far as like her desire to like trigger people, it puts her, I think, more or less on our side of this conversation. And she proposed vasectomies for men as a solution. Now, look, I want to talk about whether or not this really is a solution, but I like that she's pitching these ideas, okay? And she knows how to poke the bear. So Pearl said, solutions for men. 1, vasectomy till I find the right woman. And people were freaking out. And just so you know that this isn't like a completely out of left field idea. Men in the manosphere have said the same thing. Here is a tweet from Rollo Tomasi, the rational male, who's basically blocked Allison and Karen on Twitter because of how alpha he is. And he said, the quickest path to becoming a high-value man: 1, do not get married, although he is married. Number 2, avoid family creation, although he has children. Number 3, vasectomy in your 20s. And so this has sparked a lot of discussion around vasectomies in general. So I want to ask you guys, and you can go to the Discord link, get in there, tell me your thoughts. It doesn't have to be about this. If this is not of interest to you, whatever, but just give me your thoughts, whatever it is you want to talk about. I'm live right now. Get in there and call the show. So, what? One thing that I did see is that Shoe on Head got upset, didn't like it. Said, "What's up with red pillars and vasectomies, bro? They're not always reversible. This is terrible advice." Now, I am inclined to agree, but again, and I've said this before, Shu isn't exactly offering anything else, so I don't know what it is you expect, right? I mean, it's like, it's either, get a vasectomy or what? Cry more? Become a male feminist? Vote liberal, whatever. So I mean, what are men supposed to do? I think that Pearl's putting out, and Rollo, I will also agree with that, is putting out ideas because men are looking for ideas. They're looking for options. That's all it is. And I think she's just saying, well, why not this? And then, Shu says this is terrible advice. Well, what do you offer as an alternative? Now, I'll tell you what I would do, and I actually commented right here. I said just abstain. Like if you're so worried that you can't resist the desire to have sex with women, even though you are simultaneously afraid that they're going to weaponize their body against you, which they can do, which is certainly a real issue, then why don't you just abstain instead of getting a vasectomy? Like if it's at the point where you're considering surgery, and look, maybe it's just me, but I think that I don't trust doctors. I don't trust surgeons for the most part. I don't trust the science, as it were. And I wonder if there would be some men, or people rather, that would say, well, I trust them to do this, although I might not trust them for other things. I don't think any of it is perfect, and I think that there are risks. And I think that a vasectomy is a very extreme, I think it's a pretty radical reaction. I understand, again, why Pearl is suggesting it. I don't know if Rollo is taking his own advice, because again, when somebody says that you shouldn't have a family, you shouldn't get married, but they themselves are married and have kids, I find that to be weird. Now, maybe they're warning us because they had a bad experience, but sometimes I wonder, because look at, for example, Greta Gerwig, who directed the Barbie movie. That beginning clip was America Ferrera discussing her role and involvement and her thoughts on, the Barbie movie as a political vehicle, because that's what it is, regardless of what people will tell you. Oh, it's just a movie about a doll, bro. It's not. They know it. They made it. They were conscious of it. And Greta Gerwig, in the Barbie movie, she promotes that women don't need men and that men should not need women. That is what the mess. At the end of the day, men and women go their separate ways, and that's the end, right? And it's ridiculous to be that antinatalist while at the same time you have children, you have a partner. I mean, she says it's a partner. She doesn't call him a husband. I don't know if husband is a feminist, misogynist buzz term now or not, but she is with a man, and I believe they have kids. Doesn't really matter. She's not taking her own advice. And this is something that happens everywhere. There's a lot of women out here telling other women not to get married because they don't need a man, and they themselves are doing it. So a vasectomy for men, I think it's a bit of a I don't think it's the best advice on that regard. I agree with Shoe on Head. Now, Blue Blur, who I think he calls in sometimes, is Shaman King XYZ. He says it's absolutely absurd, promoting a procedure that is not even always reversible, and it is not as if the birth rate isn't already crashing in most of the world. Exactly. But again, okay, so we have failing birth rates, we have failing marriages, right? We have really high divorce rates. We have women on the internet. I don't have the video here, but there was a viral video going around of a woman claiming, like, she's basically saying this is a typical day for me, and she's doing like a Chelsea Handler bit where it's like, I don't need a man, I don't need kids, I get to, get drunk, go to the club, watch TV, essentially engage in material pleasures, and I promise, I swear, I'm happy. It's just total cope, like from front to back, right? So we have all this going on in our culture, and it's true that everything, like our secular world is falling, and the birth rates are falling. The systems are not going to be able to sustain themselves, and yet, in my opinion, there are still people that think that, oh well, we just need the government to bring people together. We just need the government to step in and do X, Y, Z, and it's like they're not going to do it. Right? They want us to be atomized and away from each other so that they can put us in the pod and feed us the bugs. And I don't think that these people understand the gravity of this. By the way, look at this t-shirt I got. Let me show you. You see it? I know you can't really make it out. I made this. I designed this. Since I got better, I've been like doing more art stuff. Be on the lookout. I'm trying to come back. But anyway. So I think that... Oh, that's not you? I'm sorry, Shaman King. I thought it was. I apologize. That's my bad. But anyway. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we have all these problems going on, and yet still, there are people who think the government should be part of the solution, or they look at the way that men and women have been moving through the world, especially the younger ones, and they're not getting together. And the only thing they want to do is basically like tell us, look, what you see on the whatever podcast is not typical of women. I saw that Lauren Southern put out a tweet about it, and was trying to essentially convince people not to get blackpilled over that. But it's like it's too many, and the problem is we don't value men, therefore we don't value family, therefore we don't value children, and that's just where it's going. And I think that, I'm not saying that there's no good women out there. I mean, I've never said that, but I think that it's about what we encourage in people. And we encourage women to be single. This is why I had this video. I want to show you guys. This is a comedy video that I saw on Twitter. Because of this whole, like, I can do it all on my own attitude that so many, women are sharing right now. I want to show you guys. So 30 seconds. So check this out.
Do you know what? I am 34, I am single, I am childless, and I just moved flat all by myself. I rented a car, I packed up my stuff, I packed up the car, I went to the new place, I unpacked it, I went back to my old place, I did a second round, and I did it all by myself without the help of a man. And you know what, ladies? I got something to tell you. It was fucking shit. It was fucking shit. It was really, really, really hard. It was exhausting. Get back on Hinge. Honestly, it's not worth it.
That's like the last thing that people want to hear, right? So anyway, I want to talk about vasectomies, and I want you guys to tell me what you think, okay? So I looked into it a little bit, and I want to tell you some of the risks. I took some notes. A vasectomy, in case you guys don't know, is a surgical procedure for permanent contraception in men, during which the vas deferens, the tubes that carry sperm from the testicles to the urethra, are cut, sealed, or otherwise blocked. While vasectomy is generally considered a safe and effective procedure, yes, safe and effective, there are some risks and potential complications associated with it. It is important for anyone considering a vasectomy to discuss these risks with a healthcare provider and make an informed decision. Some of the potential risks and complications of a vasectomy include: number 1, pain and discomfort. It is common to experience some degree of pain, discomfort, swelling, and bruising in the scrotal area following the procedure. This is typically temporary and can be managed with over-the-counter pain relievers like rest. Infection. But like any surgical procedure, there is a risk of infection, although it's relatively low. Signs of infection may include persistent swelling, redness, warmth, or fever. Infections are usually treated with antibiotics. Bleeding or hematoma. While rare, bleeding inside the scrotum can occur, leading to a formation of a hematoma, which is a blood clot. This may require drainage and surgical intervention. Ouch. sperm granuloma, sometimes a small, painful lump called a sperm granuloma, like a granule, like a grain, can form near the site of the vasectomy. This can occur when sperm leak from the cut ends of the vas deferens and cause an inflammatory reaction. Granulomas are typically not serious and can be managed with pain relief or in some cases further treatment. Post-vasectomy pain syndrome, PVPS. Some men may experience chronic or long-term testicular pain after a vasectomy. This condition, known as post-vasectomy pain syndrome, can be persistent but is generally treatable with medication, physical therapy, or in rare cases, additional surgery. Failure of sterilization. So while vasectomy is considered a highly effective form of contraception, there is still a small chance of the procedure failing, which can result in a pregnancy. So it's essential to follow up with post-vasectomy sperm analysis to confirm the absence of sperm in ejaculate, because when you get a vasectomy, you'll still ejaculate, but there's no sperm in the ejaculate normally. Regret. Vasectomy is intended to be a permanent form of contraception. It's important for individuals to be certain about their decision, as it can be challenging or expensive to reverse a vasectomy, and the success of a vasectomy reversal is not guaranteed. That's an important point. So people always say, oh, you can reverse it. But remember, people also always say that if you start on hormone blockers, you can also reverse that. And it doesn't seem like that is the case with hormone blockers, especially, depending on when you started and what kind of potential long-term or even permanent effects there are. The same appears to be the case with vasectomy. It was not intended to be a switch you can turn on and off. I know that there are, things that some scientists or medical professionals are working on where it literally works like a switch, where you can turn it on so that you are ready to make babies and turn it off when you're not. Seems like it's really expensive and doesn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really, it's not worth all of the trouble. And then lastly, psychological and emotional impact. Some men may experience emotional or psychological stress after undergoing a vasectomy, especially if they have regrets or concerns about their fertility. So I think that okay, I know that Pearl was just throwing this out there again to get people talking about it, to get people concerned, because most of the hate she got was from women that did not want men doing that. So it is kind of a way for her to get women on Twitter to self-report on their actual thoughts on this whole thing. But the truth is, this could be fixed in two ways. One, men should just be able to abstain. I think that abstinence is it's not that hard. Maybe I'll get your thoughts on that. I don't know, but I would try to abstain if possible, and I would probably try to refrain from porn consumption, because I think that it makes it harder to abstain if you are trying to stimulate yourself in other ways, even if that is something that you're just trying to gratify and it's not really hurting anybody. I get that, but it might be better for your mental health to slow down on that too. Then you'll be able to do this better, and you'll be able to think clearer and probably judge people better. I would say abstinence is the way to go if you're going to protect yourself. I don't trust condoms with women because we know what they can do. I mean, if it's such a concern that you're considering a vasectomy, why even bother to have sex with women at all? The other thing is that we need to change the laws. We need to make it to where men are not in such a disadvantaged position when they have sex with women. This is what is causing, I think, the bulk of the problem. I mean, the laws should be addressed. This should be discussed anyway, including the consequences to men for getting a woman pregnant, or being tricked into getting a woman pregnant, or being accused of putting a baby in her even if you didn't. Because I've seen cases where a man who is infertile had sex with a woman, and the woman came out pregnant and tried to make the man pay for her baby, and they had to do a big process to determine that he couldn't have gotten her pregnant. Kind of a ridiculous thing, right? That shouldn't have happened. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on vasectomy. I think I have other things. Yeah, here's another Pearl tweet. She says, condoms break, vasectomies are another layer of protection. Again, I'm not saying do it, but I understand why men come to that conclusion. I think it's pretty unfair that 1/3 of women have had an abortion and 90% have been on birth control. Yet a vasectomy is considered extreme. I mean, I could make the case that birth control isn't perfect either. But those are my thoughts on vasectomies. And I think that it's just, you know, men, you have to protect yourself, but maybe like not, I don't know, like not getting involved with women sexually is the best way. I don't know how else to put it. So and what else is there? Well, I mean, the thing is too is that I am concerned about where men and women are going in terms of like getting together and starting relationships and stuff. But I think it's something that women have to address, and that's what another thing that Pearl does well that I agree with. I think that Shu doesn't seem to know the stakes here, so yeah. So those are my thoughts on that. Do you guys anybody want to call in? This was like a little topic. Let me see what the cost is. So hold on a second. How much does a vasectomy cost? Just give me a second. So it can be covered by insurance. I'm really seeing a price. It's probably a lot. This is the thing. I don't think it's worth the money, frankly. But that's just what I believe. So anybody gonna call in? Okay, well, I'll read some comments from Rumble until I get some people in here. I'm gonna give Rumble my attention right now. So the Mangaka 92 is the only person commenting on Rumble right now, it seems. And he says, let me see, where was it? The left, like Shu, think that men are just talking about their problems will fix them. It's feminine thinking. It's true. Then he says based abstinence. I mean, it's not hard. No pun intended. Stop mutilating your body to be around women that don't even deserve your company. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Lots of these PUA grifters claim men shouldn't have families, and they have one themselves. Donovan Sharp is a good example. Yeah, true that. Men getting a vasectomy won't stop the failing birth rates because women aren't going to sleep with those men in the first place. I suppose. I don't know, man. I think women need to reorient their priorities. You know, I'd say about this statistic, okay? And I know I've brought this up before, but I got to go ahead and repeat it. So the replacement rates, in order to like maintain like everything we have, not even expand on it, just to break even, right, on like the people like building and maintaining society, like our civilization. The replacement rates is like 2.1. So that's like 2 kids per family, and in 1 in 10 families would have 3. That's to maintain things as they are. And that has fallen to like 1 point something, right? So a lot, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. And normally, according to data that I've seen, something like 80%, and this is just women, because women are the controlling factor, right? So whether or not there are children, men have been like essentially booted out of the conversation completely. Like they don't really have a say on it at all. So just looking at women for a moment, in every study that's been done, it's always been the same amount every generation. So this hasn't really changed. In general, I think it's something like 90 or 85% of all women want to have children. They want to get married and have children. And there is a 10%, maybe 12% of women that either are certain they don't want children, so they're just going to be, you know, like career women, or they're just not going to have kids or whatever. They may even have a husband but no kids. So there's a really small percentage that does that. Like my guest on Monday of this week, Elizabeth Jack, said that she had her tubes tied, so she's like for sure not going to have kids. And I don't even know if that can be reversed when a woman gets her tubes tied. So there is a small percentage of women like that, and that's fine. And then there's a small percentage of women that are unable to have children, like they have a medical problem or a defect or something, right? Something wrong with them, they can't have kids. They're just infertile. Same thing with men. There's a small percentage of men that just can't have kids. But the overwhelming majority do. But in this study that I saw, there is a large percentage of these women, like a big chunk of the women that do want kids, that cannot have kids now because it's too late for them. Because they spent their fertile years doing other stuff, pursuing an education, pursuing a job, building a business, or just like waiting for the right guy, waiting for the 666 guy, right? And he never came, or none of the men that they met were good enough, or whatever. They kept thinking they could do better. Women have they suffer from FOMO, I think, far more than men do when it comes to finding a mate. And because we've put women in the driver's seat, not just, and I'm not blaming the internet, because a lot of people blame the internet or they blame dating apps or something. It's not that to me. I mean, in a way, you could say that now that the market is blown wide open, right? Women can like find men outside of like wherever their immediate vicinity is, where back in the old days, before the internet, you would meet a guy in your hometown, or maybe you would meet a guy while you were in college, in another state or another part of the state that you were from or whatever. But I don't think that that's a massive factor. But maybe there's something to the idea that women having like what appears to be unlimited options, coupled with this kind of like female entitlement narrative that's pushed on them, like, oh, you can do better than that, oh, you can have any man you want, oh, it doesn't matter what you look like, right? Oh, you don't need a man, oh, you don't have to get married, you don't have to have kids. I think that all of those things, enough women buy into it, or they end up with analysis paralysis, where they don't act on anything, and then they turn around and they're like in their 40s and they don't have kids, and they can't find anybody. And it's a tragedy, but I think this is what's happening to most of the women that are ending up alone in their middle age, is that they have bought into a lie about reality, and now they're suffering for it. And what's really ironic is that what our society needs for it to run is all being thrown out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's what our society needs to be run is getting thrown out because there aren't enough people being born to contribute. I saw this. Oh, I want to show you guys something. Let me go to my notifications, because this is actually kind of it's not entirely related, but I got to go to my page. So if you guys want to follow me on X, it's at Honey Badger Arcade or at Badger Arcade. But I saw this right here. So Pearl shared this, but this has nothing to do with like men per se. But I want you to hear this, okay? It's a really short clip. Destiny is doing a debate with some other people, and he's talking about, well, essentially blue collar work. So listen to this.
Working the white collar jobs are smarter. Smarter men don't roof. Smarter men aren't doing power lines. Smarter men aren't doing construction.
So I want you to think about that. Okay, so Destiny is a game streamer. Now maybe this is just a short clip, so maybe it's a little out of context. But the truth is that the men, the people who are doing the jobs that he thinks that are not done by smart people, like roofers and construction workers and plumbers and sanitation guys and all of that, he's basically saying they're not smart, and that white collar jobs are smart people jobs. But the thing is, without those people, without those men like keeping the infrastructure running, there is no white collar jobs. They don't exist. Because like when everything is gone, okay, like if we lose it all, the shit like the internet and video games, that's first to go. So I don't know what, I mean, again, I don't, maybe I'm wrong on the context, maybe there's, you know, maybe Destiny's not making that argument, but that sounds like he doesn't even, he's so oblivious to how we're in this position we're in now, where I'm living in a heated and air-conditioned apartment on a computer talking to you guys anywhere in the world right now in like, what, like with 5 seconds of lag? Anywhere in the world? Like, they're sending signals to space. You know, I can go flush a toilet and my shit just disappears. I don't know where it goes, right? I mean, I do, but you know what I mean? Like, you have any idea, like, how many men did this? And it is mostly men that did this, that gave us everything. Like, I don't know, like, white-collar people, you know, and if you're a white-collar guy, I'm not attacking you, okay? But you gotta get some perspective, man. Like, I appreciate what, you know, guys that do this hard work have done, how we got here. So, anyway. Okay, so I think somebody wants to come in. High Inquisitor Swashberry says, Warlock, Kristoff, and I were talking about in the screening room about how all this seems like a throwback to the attitude that surgery can fix anything, including psychological problems. See also lobotomies, but Warlock doesn't see that there's much problem to begin with. Well, I guess I can bring him in quickly to talk about that. But I'm of the opinion, well, let me bring in this guy. I'm just giving enough delay. But I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, this is like how little we appreciate the work that men do. It is mostly men. And I mean, I hate to bang on that drum, but I don't think that's deniable, you know? So I'll bring Warlock in. Hold on.
Oh, hi.
Yes. Hello. Welcome. So what were you guys talking about?
I was making a joke, and you caught me in mid use of the word ball.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's a mystery.
Yes, it will be a mystery now. Lol. Okay, yeah, sorry. Anyways, yeah, about the vasectomies.
Vasectomies.
Yes. Short-ish preamble. My father had one, granted. Of course, after I was, you know, incubated. I
assume.
But, yeah, well, I would hope so. But he did that more so because, from what I've been told, him getting the surgery done would have been easier than my mother getting it because, well, the female equivalent, because my mother was a type 2 diabetic.
I see.
And that tends to cause, or that can cause complications in surgery. So
sure.
My father had his, because my mother kept having weird, like, pregnancy complications in general. Just to give you an idea, my blood type is weird. It's actually AB negative. Both my parents are A negative. Where the B came from, no one knows. But yeah, so, you know, and so that's just to give you a short idea of the weird complications.
Yeah.
And my father got the surgery. To my knowledge, he hasn't had any issues with it. To my knowledge. I mean, from what I'm aware, it can cause some penile issues in the future. Because it tends to inhibit the production of testosterone. And it prevents the swimmy fish fun time juice from getting into the tubule vesicular organ thing. Which then that goes in the bloodstream and we cycle things out and all that fun stuff. So that's what I really know about that. Now, what I wanted to mention is we used to do lobotomies. Now, that sounds like a weird preamble, but that was the time where we thought, hey, let's do surgery. That'll solve our problems. So maybe, and I'm kind of spitballing, but maybe part of everyone rushing to get their vasectomy is just us trying to surgery the problem away without actually addressing, gee, I don't know, the fact that men get fucked over in family courts and they don't even get rights to children. Little more important than snipping your Jimmy there, Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I think it makes sense. I think it's it is to some degree a rational choice. But I am with you on like using surgery to solve problems sounds risky and expensive. Plus, I read that getting it reversed is typically more expensive than getting it done, and it's sometimes it isn't covered by your insurance. So if in the event that you even have insurance to get it done in the first place, it may not be covered to reverse it. So I think that what's better, if and cheaper, is for men to simply, abstain. Like just do what does Paul Elam say? Don't put your dick in crazy. That's all. Just be discerning. And I know it can be difficult. I know that women are out here being deceitful and there's hoflation and all that, but I don't want guys to do unnecessary cutting into their bodies. I mean, I personally don't think it's a good idea for people who think that they're the opposite gender to get surgeries done, because I mean we're pushing this shit on children, and if they change their mind, they're screwed. I mean, we're making like eunuchs. Like I don't think that's good. Like if you you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be sure. That's what I'm saying. You have to be sure this is what you want. And I don't think I don't think that a guy in his 20s, because that's what I think Rollo said. I don't think a guy in his 20s is going to be in a position to be that certain. So yeah, I guess I'm saying that I agree with what you're saying about like using surgery to just fix things. I just think that's a bit extreme.
Now, in terms of surgery to fix things, lobotomy, which again, comparing that seems a bit extreme, but it was the same concept. It was, hey, we have a problem with schizophrenia and depression. Let's poke a hole in your brain. That'll solve this problem. And we're trying to prevent pregnancy without addressing the glaringly obvious, painful, one-sided idea of family court.
Yeah.
And I think people should have more kids, because a lot of the whole, there's too many people on the planet, they were saying that in the 50s. In the 50s, they were saying, and that was like, what, 1.5 billion people on the planet? And they said, in 10 years, we won't be able to feed the world, and it'll all be... They've been saying that since 1952.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly doubt we're actually at that precipice, because you can't be that wrong for that long, but still somehow be there true eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. There's a lot of propaganda in the world that I'm very aware of.
Yeah.
I've developed the super magical power of pattern recognition, and now I'm a threat to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Lol. But so I just, again, with vasectomy, I've known of men who would get it and then they told me, I'll just reverse it when I want to have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
well,
okay, I can see some pragmatism in that, but just again, surgery's not the easiest thing to repair.
Mm-hmm.
It's once you get something removed, it ain't very easy putting it back in.
Yeah.
I mean, the only surgery I really had was I had my wisdom teeth removed. Well, then I had a bunch of teeth pulled because opiates. But I mean, good luck putting the molars back in. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that like I saw a thing about SSRIs not being great either. I'm just challenged by the entire medical establishment, to be honest. Like the last couple of years are not exactly reassuring me of their competence. So
here, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was on opiates for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out, and by they I mean the government or the insurance or whoever the hell was pulling the strings that day. They found out that okay, he has a permanent condition that isn't getting better with drugs. Let's take him off the drugs completely. That'll solve his problem of constant chronic mind-numbingly painful pain. That'll
Yeah.
solve his problem. So yeah, I'm more burned by the medical industry than most people aware of COVID are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a bunch of medications, including on occasion drinking, and on occasion honey cannabinoid-ish things. And I have to do all this just to keep my pain in check. So now, again, if I were to get anything snipped with my health disorder, very, very unlikely A, I can reverse it, or B, that it's most likely going to cause severe complications.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even get my ears pierced with my condition without potentially ripping my ear clean the fuck off my head.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, when
we
your
don't want that.
collagen doesn't work. And that, honestly, I kind of want to point this out. That's partly why I think we should not do as much surgeries, because my condition is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and not many people A, know what that is, or B, know to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it mostly because it happens in women so much, we forget that men can have it too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which is similar with breast cancer in that regard. But
Yeah, sure.
and again, with Ehlers-Danlos, if your collagen isn't working properly, skin tears happen. My parts of my ear split open. I spontaneously bleed. I scratch bug bites clean off of me. Right, they just fall off. Shit like that. People don't know if they could have something like that, a genetic disorder that's rare, hard to test. People don't know if they could have that. And if you have that and get a unnecessary surgery, you're triple fucked.
Yeah.
So, I just kind of advise people not getting surgeries in general. Now, with the whole don't stick your dick in crazy, that's a lot easier said than done because men aren't taught what crazy looks like.
Oh, I know. I know.
I've known a bunch of men who all married women who had BPD. The women told them they had BPD, and they had no fucking clue what that meant.
Yeah, sure. Well,
so
speaking of SSRIs, like most women are on them, so and I don't think it's helping them any. But I got to move on to the next person. I got to take the next question. So thank you, Warlock, for the feedback. And I mean, I agree. I think generally men, if you're really sure and it works for you, I say go for it. But like if you're don't do it as a kind of reactionary thing, like, oh, I just want to, because you might regret it and it might be difficult to change and you might deal with complications. So it's just, it's kind of a risky and I think extreme path to take, but I understand it. So
yeah, I myself would say do it with caution and get tested.
Yeah.
And I say this for most things. Get tested for genetic disorders, especially collagen related, because if your collagen's messed up and you get your tube snipped, you're going to have a lot more issues than your tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something people don't even think to check about is collagen health and that kind of stuff. And that's what keeps your junk in one piece.
Yep.
So just caution, my brethren, caution.
All right. I want to move you back, Warlock. So thanks for calling in. And
take care.
I'll talk to you later.
Coach Brian, the keeper of the forbidden ball.
All right. Talk to you later. All right. We got some people in there ready to call in. This is great. I'm excited. Okay. Next, Swashberry, my High Inquisitor, the guy who basically makes sure that whoever's going to come in here is not a heretic, I guess, says, at Disordered Drew doesn't see any problem with many men getting vasectomies, and he sees much of the female backlash to it as an attempt to coercively control men through their relationships. Yes, I think that's true, but I'm going to let Disordered Drew to talk about it himself. So I'm going to bring him into the chat right now. Hello, sir. You are muted. Let me see if you're muted on the... No, you're not. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, good. Can you talk now?
I can
Yes. Hello.
Hey,
Hey. There we go.
yeah, if you haven't like read
I
my
did.
opinion, right? Like to me, I actually don't see like a drawback at all of men getting vasectomies,
Mm-hmm.
because of my like perspective, and that is that if a man can't give a woman kids, then she can't trap him.
Mm-hmm.
But if a man and a woman still want to raise kids together, then they can still use the sperm donor if he changes his mind later and wants kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if we meet a woman who wants kids, right? And then because if that's done like within the marriage, she can't use that as a reason. Oh, he's not the real father, because that's not how it works. Because then will be like he would be legally, because right. And that wouldn't be any different than how a man discriminates against in divorce courts, even when it is his biological children.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like, it just means the woman can't trap a man. It doesn't mean that she can't have kids or raise a kid together with a man who can't have his own biological kids.
Yes.
And because of my like individual opinion about propagation is that I don't really value individual reproduction very well.
What do you mean by
And the reason why,
individual reproduction?
yeah, I don't care that much about the individual man having biological kids. Like he can if he wants to, and I support that obviously. But from a like more of a broader perspective, I just think that as long as I propagate my own people, meaning also the same like ethnic racial backgrounds as I am,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's like there's no meaningful distinction within that in reproduction, individual reproduction, in my opinion. Right? I think that the female individual reproduction is more important because that's the limits of the people's reproductive ability, but the male one is kind of like unimportant. It is reliant on the female, and that's why think it's very good for men to like don't have to, but they can like develop a more collective view on raising children, in the way that as long as these kids are my people,
Yeah.
then I could make them mine. That's basically my perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And because of that, and therefore, because if you have this perspective, if you see a lot of kids of your own background being raised by single mothers who aren't bad people, right? But
Mm-hmm.
men are very good for kids, so therefore a lot of men would marry women who have kids, right? That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that he or she that they want more kids, right? Because if she already have a few kids, then that might be enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see a problem if a man wants to get a vasectomy at that point, because like they don't want more kids, they already have their family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if a younger man changes his mind and after getting vasectomies, right, and then that helps him to like not, in the past, helped him to not be baby trapped by a woman he didn't want to raise kids with, right? Then they can just reverse it. And if that doesn't work, because you should never expect it to work. Like if someone's gonna get a vasectomy, you need to be 100% certain that
Yes.
if it doesn't work,
Yes.
you need to be sure about it. You should never, ever count on that being reversible and that could work. No. If you basically do it, you should always expect that if you are going to have kids later, then you need to be open to the fact that those kids might not be biologically yours.
Mm-hmm.
If you're fine with that, then go ahead and get it, right? If you are very, very super, like, I don't think it's something for all men, of course. So if you're a man that basically, I could never raise a kid, it's not biologically mine. If you have that mindset, then maybe vasectomy isn't for you. I'm just saying that. But if you just don't want kids, but change your mind later, I don't really see a problem with getting a vasectomy, because the male reproductive ability is always replaceable. And if you consider your own people of the same ethnic background as you, because you almost have the same DNA. Like if you compare someone of the same ethnic backgrounds to me, we basically have almost the exact same DNA, right? So that means that all his kids would
I see what you mean.
be mine, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, if men think about that, then we don't really have these like competitive nature towards each other, more of a cooperative nature towards each other instead. And I do think that could be better for men as a whole, right? And having that mindset, right, is the reason why I don't see a drawback in men getting vasectomies. In addition to
to abortion is like, or it's like, in my opinion, I don't want to criminalize all form of abortion, but I do think abortion is kind of horrible, and I do like think vasectomies are absolutely preferable to abortions. And when it comes to these like very liberal people who have abortion left, right, and center, and they don't want kids anyway, much better if they get vasectomies than abortions.
Mhm.
So this is the reasons why I'm like think it's okay to get like a vasectomy if you're a man who don't care about having kids, don't want kids now,
Yeah.
or don't want kids at all, because I don't really see many drawbacks of that. Like, I don't see drawbacks that are like significant.
Well-
Many of those drawbacks need to be overcome. But
Yeah.
that depends on who you are and what you believe. But
Yeah.
yeah, to me, I don't see a drawback, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not getting one because I'm gay, but like,
Right. You're not invested in this in a way. So you're not. I mean, obviously, you're not getting a vasectomy because you're not. Like, the only reason why you would get one is because you don't want to impregnate a woman, right?
and still have sex with a woman.
Yeah, but if you're not going to have sex with a woman, you don't need a vasectomy, though. If you're not going to have sex
Exactly.
with them, right? So
No, because I want.
yeah. So, but I'm saying for the reason I'm bringing this up, not because I'm necessarily against guys getting vasectomies. I'm not. But what I'm doing is I'm tabling it as a topic because I think that I think that there are men who are probably too young to be thinking about these things that are thinking about these things, and they're encouraged perhaps to get them or not, but they're also encouraged to have low standards for women, and so they're more likely to, instead of raising their standards or becoming more discerning or, you know, exercising some restraint when it comes to women and the temptation of having sex with women, they're gonna essentially give into to those temptations and those desires and get a vasectomy as an insurance policy. And I don't think that should happen in that order. I think that I again, if you know this is what you want to do, and I know there are people that are, you know, that will say I got one and I'm fine. I mean, that's great if that's you. I'm not talking about like someone who is mature enough and they understand, or maybe they've already had kids, like the last guy who called said that his father, you know, had his kids and then he got his vasectomy. It makes sense, right? I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about like a young guy, just like these young children who are being bombarded with queer theory, and then they're told that they're actually trans and that they should start blockers and they shouldn't tell their parents and such. And these kids are doing this at like 12 or 13, or they even have parents that push them into this stuff because their parents want to become famous, or because they think it's special, or they're lesbians or whatever themselves, because it's usually single moms that do that. And these children are not informed. They're acting on bad information. They're told, oh, this is reversible. You know, if you change your mind, you can just get back on, like, we'll take you off of the hormones or whatever it is and you'll be fine. And that's not what happens. And they end up, I mean, I think personally, when it comes to the trans issue, there is going to be a lot of suicides. Because
That's almost guaranteed.
What?
Like, I used to think that's like, to me, I think that's almost 90% certain. Like,
yeah.
It's basically like obvious. Like it's basically that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a lot of suicides, and the queer theorists are gonna blame transphobia or something else, and not actually like address it, and they're just gonna keep pushing. And so I think that when you get surgeries to address things, you should be very, very informed. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying you should make sure that this is what you want. And I think that when it comes to what you were saying about having your DNA in your particular ethnic group, I guess I don't think that people of the same ethnicity are necessarily clones of each other. I think there is something about a man having his children that he knows are his children and wanting to raise those children as a kind of extension of himself, right? But I think that the desire to do that, again, should not override a man's need to be very, very selective on who he does it with, when he does it, and like, to make sure that all of that is right. And I know that it's not a very easy thing to do, especially in our modern world, but I don't think it's impossible. And that's why I say, if it comes down to it, abstinence is your friend, so that you can like take the time to figure it all out. And I do think that it does come down to women, unfortunately, because they, like, right now they're the ones that have power over the entire topic of reproduction, and that's not really how it should be. I think that's why we're in this mess. So someone in the chat is saying MRA still not addressing the trans issue. This Australian female teacher getting no jail time for sex with a minor. We've done lots of stories on that. I don't know if it's that particular one, but we've covered, teachers raping their students multiple times on this channel, because it happens all the time. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'll basically say when it comes to that issue in particular, trans issue, basically say when radical feminists and traditionalists and like men's rights activists and like Muslims and like basically like almost the entire world besides the Western liberal left can agree with each other that it's a bad thing to do this to kids, then it's probably a bad thing to do to kids. Like, it's very obvious. But that just like an interesting tirade, I guess. But going back to like, you can comment first if you want to.
No, I was gonna say, I'm all for people making choices about their bodies, but they should be informed. And this is the thing that I'm not. This is why I'm not particularly a fan of what's going on in the I guess with young people that are transitioning, and I think it's mostly men. And the thing is too is that I've noticed, and this is something that nobody talks about, but I've seen this everywhere. Trans women are pretty misandrous. They're pretty man-hating, even though they're biologically male. And I see that as a big thing, and I wonder if that isn't one of the factors that contributes to them wanting to transition. It's like, I'm going to become a woman because I hate being a man because men are terrible. And I've seen this a lot. I'm not, it's not data. It's just anecdotal. It's just what I've seen around. But I think that it's a big problem. So, but anyway, what were you going to say before?
Yeah, I was going to say that, I've also noticed that. And I think that's the reason why. I haven't really noticed that, but I've seen that a lot of people get so, like, belligerently angry when you point out that trans women is a subcategory of man. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen some trans women, like the trans women who is normal, they usually say that trans woman is just a subcategory of man and not a subcategory of woman, right?
Yeah, they do.
Right, and because it's factually true, because a man is an adult human male, and a trans woman is a male who transitioned to resemble a female. Like,
they're gonna try to. Yeah,
kind of simple.
Yeah, the queer lobby's going to try, or the G Mafia, they're going to try and ban the word trans woman and trans man, because they don't want. They're gonna say you got to just call them men and women. I mean, that's inevitable. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be the next step, because if you say trans women, then you are creating a separate category from woman, and we know that trans women are women, so you can't do that. They're going to. I'm surprised they haven't done it already, but they're going to.
Yeah, they probably will, because they're just lying at that point, honestly. Because like the trans woman is obviously a separate category than a woman, right? And and if people like get offended by that. That is the thing, is that it's the man hating, because they think let's say that the trans women are male or the trans women are technically men, is such a bad thing. I'm like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that's it's because I know that the main reason people would transition is mainly because of the neurological component that causes someone to have neurological patterns of the opposite sex. But I also know that in order to meet the criteria for gender dysphoria, it's not that high, and many other people who do not have those reasons to transition is also unfortunately going to transition. And I think that's where you see the man hatred, or that could just be a response into the fact that they will always be male and hate that. So therefore, even though they have the neurological components.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of that. I think that, I'm not going to try to oversimplify the entire trans thing, because obviously I can't really speak to it much. But just based on what I've observed, I think there are some who are they just hate themselves because they're men, and they've then essentially they become kind of self-hating because of their identity, because they were born male, and that being a man is the worst thing. But then that brings about, well, why are there trans men? Well, I think that there are women who transition to men because they think that they're going to get access to some kind of a privilege or benefit of being male. And on the other side, there are men who transition to women, like the trans Max or Tina, who I had on the show a while ago, that thought, well, I can, like, you know, kind of cash in on this by transitioning. But and then there are women who think that they believe that because there is no real difference between men and women, if they become a woman, then it won't matter, right? But I think that it's all just very, very, very misinformed. And there's I think there.
Oh, it is.
Like, I couldn't tell you like how many, but there's also this autogynephilia or autoandrophilia where there is it's sort of like a
and arousal of to being the opposite sex. You're aroused by that.
Yeah, there's an arousal about being perceived as the opposite sex. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's a different kind of dysfunction. I don't know how common it is. Some people have said it's probably the most common. I don't know, but I know it exists, and I know that we're not supposed to talk about it. But I think that this radical misandry, well, I would say radical, but it's kind of normalized. This misandry that we're seeing all around us is part of why all of this confusion about like gender and identity and stuff is coming from. There's a lot of confusion and anger towards the self for one reason or another, and I think but we're getting off the. But I
wanted to go back to the original point.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'll basically say that if a man wants to get a vasectomy, like even if he's a young man, I'd say I say that he can go for it if he have these things in mind. He should never think he should never rely on it being reversible. He should not rely on that at all. Like, just period, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to know that if he changed his mind and wanted kids later, that would he potentially be open to those kids not being his biological kids? If no, then it might be a stupid idea to get a vasectomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So these are the things the reason men, not just young men, but older men actually need to know before they get it, right?
Yeah.
But there's actually a third reason why a man wants to get a vasectomy, and that might be because, I think that because of the how the parental rights is so poor when it comes to men in society. Sure. I think that a lot of men basically decides that he's not going to have kids even if he would want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just decides to get a vasectomy anyway because he won't have kids doesn't mean that he won't have sex, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and doesn't really want to wait for the laws to change, and might even think that if the laws change, then I can have kids through other means. Like, I do think that is another valid reason why I get a vasectomy for that reason. I think it's kind of sad, but I don't think that I'm not opposed to that conclusion because it is a reasonable conclusion in my opinion.
I think so too.
So I'll basically just say that and also other reasons could just be that if a guy basically this is a reason I don't really support, but if a guy have a very specific biological condition he don't want to pass on to his kids,
mm-hmm.
and he wants to use a sperm donor for that reason, he might want to do a vasectomy for that reason. That's something that also exists, even though I don't really like that idea because I have disorders and I wouldn't mind, and I'm not thinking that just because I have a disorder doesn't mean I shouldn't breed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a good way of seeing it, but that comes down to an individual. If some man comes to that conclusion, then I think that's a conclusion to be respected, even though I don't encourage that. But I do think that the female reproductive ability is what's important, right? And the male ones can only be replaced by another man of the same genetic origin, because somebody who shares my ethnicity, who's not my relative, is actually more genetically similar to me than any other human of a different ethnicity in the world, if that makes sense. And then people of the same ethnicity and the same sex, I might add, basically have a genetic similarity of like 99.9%, if that makes sense. So it's like really, really similar, right? So I do not. So if a guy, right, got a vasectomy, for example, right, and he couldn't have kids, and he changed his mind later, right? I think that these men need to know about these facts that I mentioned, so that they know that even if they made a mistake and got a vasectomy, right, and want kids later, that doesn't mean that they can't be fathers. If they know the fact of the genetic similarities between ethnicities, or between the people of the same ethnicity, and then if you basically, like, that is your genetic interest as an individual, actually, that means that if a guy changed his mind about having kids, then if you know about that, then he might just want to have kids through other means, by using sperm donor, for example, or marry a woman who already have kids. So, like, I think that it's good to know that, not because I really encourage men to get vasectomies. I don't do that. I just think that they should do that if they want to. But if they change their mind, that doesn't mean that they can't be fathers, if that makes sense. And I do think that that's a very important message to get.
See. Yeah.
Because we as men, especially of the same ethnicity, shouldn't see ourselves as genetic competitors. We should see ourselves as genetic amplifiers. Like, if a man of my ethnicity breeds, then that's actually good for my genetic interest. And I don't want the kids of my ethnicity to grow fatherless. I don't want that. So if I was straight, I would probably marry a woman who already had kids, if she was like decent, right? Because I have met decent single mothers, right? Because men are very good for kids, like, and the females are the reproductive limits, right? Of humans, and every ethnicity of humans. So if there are fatherlessness, then there's a lot of like fathers men could be if they don't have kids and they want kids. So I do think it's very important to notice that just making a woman pregnant isn't the only way to be a father, even though that's a good way to be a father. But if men know this, then it would just lead to more cooperation between men in society rather than competition. And I believe that men in this time of day need more corporations.
Yeah, cooperation, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It sounded like you said corporations.
No,
cooperation. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, that's something to think about. I'm gonna move you back. Thank you for coming and giving us your thoughts on that.
Oh, it's awesome. I really wanted to.
All right, cool. Yeah, thank you. I want to move you back into the screening room. All right, so no super chats. Let me see if are there any super chats? Anybody send a super chat? I'll read them if you guys send them in. No, nothing yet. I mean, there is a way. If you don't want to call in and you're like looking to, but you want to say something, you can also do that. Or you could even have Swashberry. You know, you can come into the screening room and just say, look, I just want to send a message, and he'll just type it out, and you don't have to come in and call and talk to me. And he did do that. So he says, Coran Strong wrote in saying that they listened to a recent Tom Woods show about AI and the impact it will have on the economy. Coran thinks that a lot of the depopulated high-tech visions of a futuristic utopia are overblown, and that we're more likely to see Raspberry Pis in every home rather than flying cars, robot butlers, or nanomachines. What are your thoughts? Well, you know, I do think that there is like a lot of excitement about artificial intelligence, and I have sort of played around with it a little bit, and what I found is that maybe I'm not doing enough because I am a little trepidatious about like talking to an AI that is probably like, you know, recording all kinds of private info. Not that social media doesn't do that anyway, but that's why I don't really use it that much. But I do think that it is kind of like just I would say a really sophisticated search engine that knows how to like form paragraphs, but it always says the same stuff. You know, like it's very samey in the way that it talks. You don't feel like you're actually talking to a person. I could be wrong, but that's what I've gathered from my limited use of it. But there is someone that sent me, and I'm not going to cover this here, but someone who is subscribed to this channel had a conversation with an AI about men's rights activists and feminism. And before, and I have also talked to the AI a little bit about that stuff, and I think it's important to note, because I know people in the manosphere, in the men's movement, that are very excited about this. Like, oh, it's going to be so great. We're going to be able to like get so much work done, blah, blah, blah. And he's looking at it from like a kind of, you know, pragmatist productivity perspective. But I'm very concerned about that, because I said, well, what if they start using it to educate? And he'd be, oh yeah, it'd be really great. And I was like, no, wait a minute. The AIs are not like self-aware things. They are fed information from people who feed it information, and those people have an ideology. Those people have beliefs about the world, right? And even if the AI was asked to be like as say, you know, fair as possible and simply seek out information, it's going to get a certain perspective. So when this person, this user, you know, just asked straight up about feminism and men's rights, the AI brought forward what you would have expected from a normie's perspective or a feminist perspective on feminism and men's rights, right? Or MRAs or whatever, manosphere stuff, whatever it is. I have also asked the AI about men's issues, and I didn't frame it in a feminist way, but I've done this in the past, and it gave me a very like safe, boilerplatey thing that listed a bunch of men's issues, but then it always has this thing at the end where it says it's important to note that, and then it'll like tell you, you know, like stuff about, you know, women have problems too, and men's issues, you know, like they're sometimes men's fault and stuff like that. It's basically just operating under a feminist model because it's programmed by blue-pilled feminist people that give it feed it like its information, or at least tells it how it's supposed to get information. So when it goes out and gathers info, it's not doing so of any sort of free will. It's doing so under, you know, intense filtering and editing. So you're not going to get like a nonpartisan view, and I don't think it's all that intelligent. I mean, I think there's a lot, like people talk about how advanced it is, and I'm like, but do you even know like how sophisticated the human brain is? Like the human brain, even in low IQ people, is far more advanced than like I don't think than any computer that exists today. I mean, I think that there has been talk. I mean, maybe it's blown out of proportion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think AI is at that point yet. And I think that you're right. Flying cars, robot butlers, nanomachines. I think nanomachines might be a thing that people are currently working on, but I don't know. I mean, my only concern is that, well, actually, what AI is probably going to do is it's going to kill a lot of white collar jobs. The jobs that Destiny thinks that only smart people can do. Because like I don't think it's going to be able. I know that they're going to be making robots to do like construction and stuff, but I don't think that's going to come for a while. And I think mostly people are going to need like just like men to do that. I think that white collar jobs are going to be the first to go, when especially like administrative stuff. Basically, the jobs that women do. They'd be the first ones to go. And it's funny because women, when they entered the workforce, they ended up doing the same stuff most of the time doing the same stuff in the workforce that they would have done if they had stayed home. They're, teaching and caregiving and things like of that nature, right? So weird. I don't see flying cars being a thing either, because we'd have to come up with like a bunch of new traffic laws, and then we'd have to get licenses, and I just don't see that happening. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I think that I think it is overblown. I think that there is, I think that there is a use for it, but I don't think AI is there yet. Like, you know, the only thing I think the best thing that AI can probably do right now is write movie scripts because the writers can't. Anyway, so if you do you guys have any, if you guys want to call in, or because if not, I could just wrap it up. That we've gone for about an hour and 20 minutes. I could wrap it up instead. But please, if you really want to call in, please do, or send me a message. I do see some folks in the screening room, so maybe somebody will call in. I'll give them some time to figure out, you know, if that's what they're gonna do. But if you're gonna call in, please do it now. Now. So anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, there was something else I was gonna mention. Okay, so as an aside, so I have another channel. I want you guys to go subscribe over there. It's called Honey Badger Arcade. It is primarily a gaming channel where I do streams. Sometimes I have my wife play games. Sometimes I play games with her. But also, we're going to be working on our own stuff. I have a couple of projects in mind. I want to mostly use Honey Badger Arcade to discuss culture and like, you know, kind of leisure stuff. But from a more men's rightsy or red pilly perspective that I don't think a lot of people do. And so that includes doing game streams, but also just commentary. And one thing I wanted that I've been thinking a lot about is, you guys might have heard about a game called let's see here. You may have heard about a game called Starfield. Is that what it's called? Some new science fiction game, Starfield, I think. And apparently, Heels versus Babyface, known as I think is his real name, or at least that's what people call him. He's like known for doing this rant about how there were all of this woke current year garbage in the game, and a lot of people were mad at him about it, or they thought he was taking it too seriously, or whatever it was. I personally don't have an interest in it, but I saw the video and I was like, yeah, that's about right, you know, because we've been talking about this for like a really long time. I've been warning that this is going to change. You know, they're going to try to change the culture through these mediums. I mean, I remember before even Gamergate happened, there was a I knew you guys might remember Sour Grape, who used to be a regular on our show, and now she's got her own like streaming thing going on. And we were looking at these like student entries to do game design, and they were all based on, you know, kind of feminist, leftist politics, identity politics. And then I went to a VR conference, and at the VR conference, this was like years ago, in Silicon Valley. And I get there, and it's when before VR was sort of like mainstream, but it was, you know, it was in development. And I get there, and there's like a presentation, and it's all about, again, you know, women's experiences. I remember doing a VR thing where I was just sitting there, I couldn't move, there was nothing to do, it wasn't even a game, but I'm playing a woman sitting at a desk, and a man comes over and sexually harasses me. And that was the game. It was supposed to make, oh, this is what it feels like to be a woman in the workplace, right? And it was so cringe. I was like, and I told people, I said, they're gonna make this the norm. They're gonna make this our entertainment. They're gonna push this shit. This is like years ago, you know, years ago, and I saw this. And yeah, now it's happening. And so, and you know, guys, like I get it, like guys like Az and Nerdrotic and Eric July and stuff, like I'm not gonna say they didn't know about this, but they are experiencing something that we saw like years ago. Oh, this is coming. And I said that, and you know, people don't seem to understand it. It's not like there's a person pulling the strings. It's a generation of people who have been educated with this as their primary way of living and like injecting stuff. And so you're going to see it. Like, you know, I was talking to my wife about Baldur's Gate 3 because my wife got it for me, and I wasn't really like super interested, but there was another guy I know that wanted me to like that was inviting me to play with him. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the game. And then my wife said, I'll get it for you because it was my birthday on Monday. Happy birthday to me. And so I was like, okay, fine. And she got it for me. And I got in the game, and like right in the first, like when you finally get to create a character, right there, it's like, you know, what's your gender? And when I saw the word gender, I was like, oh shit. And then sure enough, it's like male, female, non-binary. And the body types and the voice types, there's no like if you played Neverwinter Nights, right, and you make a female character, the voices are all female voices. If you make a male character, the voices are all male characters. In Baldur's Gate 3, the voices are interchangeable, so you can have a person with a female body and a male voice, or vice versa, right? And I was like, okay, so sure, it's a small thing, but it's there. Like, it's there, and it's not going away, and it's only going to become more and more apparent. And it's funny, too, because I also got Armored Core 6, and I think Armored Core 6 is fucking fantastic. I think From Software is like my favorite developer right now, currently, and there's literally like the graphics are all like vehicles and giant robots, and there's no humans in it. I mean, there are voices, like, you know, obviously there are pilots and there are people who give you missions, and there's messages and all that are voiced over, but there's no people in it, and the story is very bare bones. It's like you go on missions, you make money, you build more shit, and that's basically the game. There's boss fights. It's all gameplay, right? And the critics, well, they criticized that. They were like, you know, it would be nice if there was a better story, and like, but I know, you know what they mean when they say that, right? When they say, well, I wish there was a better story, what they're saying is, I wish there was like a you know, a trans twink BDSM character with like a I don't know, a fucking dog fetish in the game. Like, that's what they're doing. Like, it gets so exhausting, like, to see that. And so I get Az's frustration, but unfortunately, it's not gonna change. Like, you're just gonna have to be, if you want it to change, you're gonna have to vote with your dollars. And especially Western developers, but not Japanese developers are not excluded from this, but especially Western developers, they're going to push this shit like in everything, and you're just gonna have to be discerning. You're gonna have to make them lose money. You're gonna have to delay gratification. You know, I'm gonna be playing like old school games that I never got around to. That's gonna be like, as far as like when I get into hobbies, I've been reading books because, you know, literature is gone to shit. It's the same thing. Allison has talked about this. You know, I'm just going back, you know, or when something is new, like Armored Core 6, I'm gonna be very particular. I'm like, oh, okay, I want this, but, you know, I don't want to deal with this bullshit. And Armored Core 6 doesn't have it, and I think that pisses them off. Even though the game is so good, they can't deny that. But instead, they're like, man, I wish you had more, you know, women in it or something. So anyway, I don't have any more call-ins, so I'm gonna ask Swash about it. They might just be hanging out, because I do see a lot in the I do see a lot of people in the screening room, a few at least. So anyway, Patty James Miko Mangwa says, I am calling in. All right, get in the link. Get in there. I will wait. I'll give you some moments. I'll give you some time. Anyway. Daffy Duck, pronoun trouble. Pronouns law. Tech is very woke. It is. Sawa is best VTuber. Yes. Yeah, I like her. I mean, I've always liked Sour Grape. She lived like right in my state, like Chicago. I've hung out with her a couple times. Her and her husband are super good people. I blame Sarkeesian, not sure, but I always gravitate that it's her fault. Well, kinda. I mean, Sarkeesian is working in the industry. She does have an influence, but it's not just that. It's, you know, it's just like the space in general has become feminized. And so it's not just Sarkeesian. It's all kinds of like women, you know, like fretting over this or that thing. Did you hear, for example, with Baldur's Gate 3, people started making mods to make the female characters more attractive. And like the fucking journalists lost their shit. They're, oh, it's gonna make them to objects, you know, and just because there's a character in there named Shadowheart, and you know, I don't want to get into like another thing that really annoys me about this game is that every NPC like in your party, so you make a character, right? You go through all the trouble to make your character, it's all customized, it's all cool, and then you meet these NPCs, and they're all more interesting than you are. They're like they're all snowflake characters. They're not just, you know, it's not just like I'm a dwarf fighter with a shield and a hammer and I'm grouchy and stubborn and, you know, big beard, and no, it's not that. They're not archetypes. They're not what you expect. They're all like, you know, I'm a bisexual elf half vampire character with curly hair and I flirt and I'm, you know, and it's like, oh my god, it's like Critical Role come to life and well put in a video game. I'm so exhausted. Like every character has to be a special snowflake with all of these little things, and it's like, what about you? I don't care about you. Like I don't care about your like emo ass fucking character design that's so special. It's like these are that literally they make a game where the NPCs that you can have in your party are exactly the kind of people you don't want at your table, that want to make everything about them. And they can't just be like, you know, elf guy with a bow and arrow. Like I'm okay with that. Just let's just go with the, you know, maybe make the character I made, you know, at least be either the most important or part of the ensemble that he fits in, and you're not just like, but have you heard about my dark and troubled past? Like no, I don't want to know. You know, it's so cringe, man. These are the people that I don't want anything to do. Anyway, so yeah, they let me see. High Inquisitor Swashberry says there is one person who wants to call in, but I don't know if he's having technical problems because he's not in the screening room yet. If you're trying to get into the screening room, message me in the live chat and I'll see if I can. Maybe you need permissions. I don't know why that would be, but that might be the case. So anyway, make a game and literally call it Boob Slider. Yeah, right. Check Super Chows. Oh yeah, hold on a second. Let me bring that up. Thank you, Zeranx. I'm in another channel. Zeranx gives us $20 and says puts on beanie and assumes Tim Pool. I think the people reacting to the vasectomy tweet, among other things dealing with the red pill, showcase the banality of evil. I watched Connor of the Lotus Eaters make a statement mentioning MGTOW replaying to his commentary and claiming that such people are aiding those who want the worst for us by avoiding women and marriage. It's like I'm in a tangential recreation of the quote, it's not about the nail video, but it is about the nail in this case. And the other party is doing everything they can to coax out of me what I'm trying to say is the issue. We're pointing at it, but the other stuff gets in the way. I think the unconscious thing is people really can't imagine women dealing with things rolling back to a position that allows for better outcomes and is a bit more just outcomes. As women demand men do more today, they seek more for themselves. Yes, there is a finality to any animal's capabilities, and humans aren't excluded. We can't be. The aversion to what men say is a problem, is something I think we need to tackle. That's right. I don't know how else to stress it, because as men, stressing it too much causes people to turn away already. Takes off beanie. Yeah. I think, is Connor the guy on the Lotus Eaters? He's like a really young guy, and I think he's like a conservative Christian guy. Because I think that he is woefully naive about how things are, and that men are, you know, speaking of I Hypocrite, I think someone is actually going to make it in here. Speaking of I Hypocrite, so you guys might not know who I Hypocrite is. If you don't, you should look him up. I love his content. I like him as a person. And he used to be big on the anti-feminist men's rights thing, and then he kind of like moved away, and now he's more like straight up, I guess, I don't know, right-wing conservative or whatever. But he used to say that if men lead, like he basically was like making the call to action that men have to lead and just do their thing, and then women will follow. And I said I don't think that's gonna happen. And like you can't ignore what women are doing, because that's essentially what that means. It's like, oh, men, just like get over yourself or get it done or whatever it is, and women will follow, but it's not happening. And he saw a study, and I brought this up, that men are young men, teenage boys are moving further right, and teenage girls are moving further left, which means that we're more divided along the lines of gender, which has really always been the primary divide. In terms of like everything that we talk about, it's almost always along the lines of gender. But we're heading more in that direction than before. And LP, well, I hypocrite, he was like, well, I guess it's not like what I thought was going to happen isn't happening. And I said, well, yeah, because, you know, we have essentially told women, we've given women all of the power, and men have nothing except to just like do their own thing. And that's what they're doing. So, you know, I think that's the, like, there's no other way, you know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, women are the ones that they have to be a part of the solution, but men have to be allowed to talk about it. And this is one of the reasons why I don't have a problem with Pearl, because in a way she is drawing attention to this issue, right? And also the Whatever podcast, you know, like people, I saw that like Sydney Watson and Lauren Southern have like dunked on or criticized the Whatever podcast for like misrepresenting women or whatever, but I don't think they are. I think that those are like probably more common than anyone cares to admit in terms of what kind of women are on that show. I mean, women seeking fame, that's why they go on there, because it gets them exposure. They're, you know, a lot of them have OnlyFans accounts. A lot of them use their body to, you know, get attention and make money, whatever it is. Unfortunately, this is the reality. Like, what are men supposed to do when that's what is appears to be out there? And don't blame the internet or dating sites or fucking YouTube or social media. Don't blame that shit, because I've been on those things like for the, you know, ever since there has been an internet, and I'm not corrupted by it, and a lot of guys I know are not corrupted by it. That's not the issue. We got to stop pussyfooting around and like get down to it, you know? Anyway, so let me see. I want to make sure if I read that. Yeah, Connor is 23. Yeah, okay. I know who he is. Yeah, I think that's a little naive personally. I think that he's got this idea that, oh, if men just, you know, collectively just like, I mean, I think simping should stop. I've talked about that. Like, I think men should like stop being simps because most women are not deserving. I think that is absolutely, I am in support of ending simpage. I'm absolutely in support of it. But it's not enough. It's got to be that, but it's got to be more than that, right? Thou shalt not simp. The 11th commandment. Okay, so I got 2 more call-ins, and then I'm going to wrap it up. This will be good. So, High Inquisitor Swashberry says, all the way from East Africa, P. James has taken an interest in how his local economy is evolving and modernizing, and is interested in discussing how best to avoid losing one's local cultural values to Americanization. All right, sounds like not related, but I'll bring him in anyways. So hopefully his thing is working. Welcome. Hello, welcome to the show, P. James.
Yes, hello.
Hello. So
Yeah, I'm
yes.
yeah. Greetings from East Africa, Tanzania. He's happy to talk to you.
Oh, Tanzania. Wow, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody in Tanzania before. Very cool.
Cool to me. It's a pleasure.
All right. So what are you thinking about? Have you ever seen our channel before? Do you know who we are, or you just kind of showed up?
Apparently, it's the first time, though I'm familiar with the quote-unquote the manosphere, especially in the West, with the Rolo Tomasi, Fresh and Fit, you name them.
Oh,
And
okay.
I've been learning a few things from the West when it comes to dating, masculinity, and personal finance. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, what's your take?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my take is, I believe that we are living in an era whereby we are being bombarded with a lot of information, and at the same time a lot of what I call psychological operations, whereby something good or something that is very tangible, meaningful to the world is being obscured with a lot of noises. For instance, the entire quote unquote red pill movement or men's rights movement is a good thing. Why? Because it brings men who were ostracized or men who weren't seen or respected in the society, give them a reason, a purpose through maybe for the lack of a better term, a pseudo philosophy, which is the red pill, give them purpose and understand their value and send them back to the world to add value and live meaningful lives. But at the same time, you have a lot of counter attacks when it comes to the entire perspective. People being labeled as misogynist, people being labeled as sexist, and etc. So, in that context, I'm seeing a lot of changes in my continent, especially in my region in Tanzania, whereby massive amounts of money are being pumped into empowering women while leaving the boy child behind. You see,
yes.
Bill and Melinda Gates are doing that heavily in my country. You have interventions, for instance, in my community, whereby bicycles are being bought for girls only, and girls ride bicycles to schools, leaving boys to walk. So we are having interference from the West, which is affecting the way how we interact between the two genders. And it changes the way how our culture are being exercised from day to day. Now, I'm scared for the future of my continent. I know we have a lot of things to deal with, but do you think there's a way, Brian, how Africa can stay connected with the global accesses and at the same time retain its genuine way of life? Is there a way, especially for young people like me? I'm 33 years old. I'm a creative in my industry. I'm a filmmaker, but also I'm a journalist corresponding with ABC and Russia Today. And I'm trying my level best to make sure that my African spirit is locked in. Sometimes there are certain projects I'm denying because they conflict against my tribal rules. Yeah, so I can speak all day. Let me end there.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's your concerns are my concerns. I would say that what you're dealing with is the same thing that a lot of people in Europe and Australia are also dealing with, and the States and Canada, etc. It's a kind of, I think that this feminist ideology is at the core of it. I think that everything else spawns from that. Environmentalism, race activism, etc. It's all like it's like a many-headed hydra. You know what a hydra is? It's like a a mythical beast with multiple heads, right? And I hesitate to say it's an American invention. I just think that it's super useful in this country, but I think it comes from Europe, really, at the end of the day. And the Enlightenment. Unfortunately, I think it is a product of the Enlightenment. I believe that this is something that we're trying to stop here. So I think that you're going to have a challenge, but I really do hope that you can maintain an identity with your culture, basically, because that's what we're struggling with now. Like, one of the big difficulties in the United States is that about half the country hates the country. About half, maybe less, but close to half of the country hates this country. They're here, but they don't like it the way it is. It's like if you you say you're 33, you've been with women. Have you been in failed relationships before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever dated a girl, okay, and she really likes you, and in the beginning everything is great, and then over time she finds criticisms about you, something about the way you dress, or things that you say, or things that you do, or something that you, and it builds up, and she becomes very dissatisfied because she nitpicks everything. She finds problems. She wants to change the person you are. And then after, if you go along with those changes, you no longer are anything like the person you were when she met you, and then she completely loses interest because you're not the person she met. Do you know what I'm saying? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what's happening to this country. There are people who come here and well, they were born here. It's actually mostly people who were born here and they live here and they are fed lies about the country, but ultimately it comes down to lies about the men in this country. And I think that what we have to fight against, and maybe this is like, because I think that your identity with your nation is a product of how you feel about the men of that nation. So one of the ways that you can make another country your enemy is to essentially say that the men there are evil and they hate women, they hate their women, and they'll be a danger to our women, and that's how you can start a war, right? That's how wars are in many cases fought. It's over women. You know, Hitler, when he needed to dehumanize the Jews, he basically accused the Jewish men of being dangerous to Aryan women. And the country responded to that. That was how you do it. That's how you do it. And in any differences. So the one thing is that misandry has to be combated directly because that's what's used to do this stuff. And I assume that if you have women or girls getting special treatment in Tanzania, not just with the bicycles, but I would look at other things because there's probably a lot of other things. Part of it is the way that like there's probably foreign powers at play that are educating these you know your people in this feminist way of thinking. So are there? I don't know. Forgive me. I don't know much about like what life is like in Tanzania, and I don't trust the media to tell me the truth about it. so do you know if like what are some basic things about your country? Like, is it a republic? Is it you know, democracy? Is it I don't know, is it a socialist country? Like, what are some? Is it a monarchy? I mean, what do you? Yeah, tell me.
Okay, we are a united republic. So we are a mainland, and then we are united with another country, a sovereign state, which is made up of two islands called Zanzibar. So we are a United Republic of Tanzania. And we are a democratic republic whereby we do have the free and fair election processes and the entire
so do we.
of the absolutely, yeah. So is America, and we do have multiple political parties, and apparently, surprise, surprise, the current sitting president of the country is a woman, and
so you have a female
yes,
president, okay?
female president, and she's doing her level best to run the country. And to your surprise, or to many people's surprise, is that the country is extremely peaceful and it's building its way towards you know, having a massive control and power over its economy, particularly from minerals and agriculture. Just today, I was reporting on a forum called the Africa Food System Forum, whereby we were discussing major heads of state from different countries over the world convened in my city, trying to find ways on how Africa can feed itself. So we are having a lot of challenges and opportunities at the same time. But
yeah,
do not be deceived by the media that Africa is dirty or it's poor or its people are backward. Trust me. We are watching how the world is going. We are sending our best brains in America. They are learning, watching you, bringing back that technology and knowledge to our country and arming us with information and data to make sure that we are propelling ourselves forward. And let me tell you one. Do you know there is a kid in Tanzania? Not a kid. There are children in rural villages who are making their own toys, electronic toys. Let me share if I have that video with you. They are making their own electronic toys by using makeshift items, salvaging items from dustbins and dumpsters and making toys. But these stories are not projected to the world. Why? Because if you project Africa as an innovative space, do you know what that tells to the world?
Yes, yes.
Whoa, these people are dangerous. Let's fund their ingenuity in their children. No. They want to send guns in here and arm these little children to kill ourselves. So we are having a very multi-purpose war from left, right, up, down, and center. And another sad thing, they are trying to kill our soil and our vegetation. Let me tell you, I bought 50 banana, ripe, good quality banana for how many dollars? Okay, 10K in USD. I think $5. I bought 50 banana for $5. Pure organic banana. Now, what Bill Gates is doing is genetically engineering seeds that go and kill all the micronutrients in the soil to an extent that there is no other seed that will germinate from the ground except the one that Bill Gates' laboratory makes.
Yeah.
He's doing that, killing nature.
Oh no, he's doing it to us too. It's like I said, it's not even like the people that are doing this harm, and it's at every level. Like you said, it's agricultural, it's social, it's cultural, it's political, it's educational. They don't see themselves as citizens of any given country. They see themselves as global citizens, and that's why this is permitted. And I think that I'm trying to figure out. Like I don't disagree with anything you're saying, and I don't. The reason why I don't know much about what happens in Tanzania, it's not exactly an African country I hear much about. You know, I mostly hear about different ones that are like either Western or South Africa. And so I presume that every country in Africa has its own, you know, religion and its own political structure and everything else, and they're not all the same. So I don't presume anything about Tanzania, but it's very nice to know that your country seems to be, despite the feminism, doing pretty well. But I mean, like I said, even countries like South Korea are in really big trouble, and they're considered a very highly advanced, you know, I guess, country. Hong Kong is in really big trouble. Japan is in really big trouble. And all of it comes down to not even like all of the things that are accomplished, but the relationship between men and women. Because if you strip everything away, all that's left is men and women. And if they can't get along, if they're at odds with each other, if they're engaging in a power struggle, then it is a really good way for people with special interests that are completely disinterested in your identity, in your culture, in my identity, in my culture. They're going to be able to destroy us because we're going to be distracted, you know, with with this thing we're dealing with. And so, I don't know. I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I'm really learning a lot from you too by understanding much more about the global West, especially from somebody like you in real time, and also understanding other perspective of people in the church too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? I feel honored to talk to you. Honestly, it's so good to hear from people that are not like that are like sort of like we don't get to hear from very often. So, you know, from places in the world that are dealing with the same stuff, because feminism is everywhere. I mean, ultimately, it's just like this notion that women's experiences have to take priority over everything else, and the only way that will change is if women themselves decide that their actions and the impact of their actions are something that is felt by everyone else, by men, by other women, by children. And you know, that the thing is that people who want to, you know, destroy our way of life, they know that is the key, is to basically keep men and women apart and take away the value of children and families, because otherwise, you know, like the way that children are treated in China and like other countries where they're, you know, made to work at, you know, I mean, it's an abomination, and it won't go away if we don't recognize a humanity in men and women and children, and we don't do that. We see men as predators, we see women as victims, and we see children as disposable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, anyway, P. James, do you have any final thoughts before I put you back in the thing?
Yeah, I just want to address something, if you allow me to.
Yeah.
Somebody, Border said, bullshit. I constantly get YouTube shorts of Africans building MacGyver-like things. So I wanted to address that thing. Yeah, you getting shorts depends on how the algorithm pushes that particular video, because those videos have been regurgitated and repurposed by other individuals. But let me tell you this another secret. Now, we do have an innovative space. For instance, I'll talk to my country in Tanzania. But, Brian, here is how the West is playing with us. They are funding innovative spaces that are building, with all due respect, petty and less transformative or disruptive technology. For instance, apps that deliver food, or apps that enable the unemployed to get updates of new vacancies, but they are not funding the real technology that Africa needs. For instance, transformative health devices, transformative irrigation technologies, transformative logistic technologies. There are innovators who have created helicopters in rural areas. These people are not funded, you see. So you have, oh my God, you have to know that there are big powers trying to make sure they distract us from the bigger thing. And let me tell you another thing, how they are funding. They are funding NGOs that are working.
The NGOs destroy.
Yeah.
They destroy people. They do. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. They are funding NGOs, okay, to teach girls how to code in order they create menstrual tracking apps. Fine. I do not want to knock girls having their own apps, but let's equate, Brian, between a technology that transforms agriculture and an app that tracks periods. Which one is better? You see how they are deceiving us. So you have to be very smart to see things between the lines. Yeah. Thank you, Brian, for having me.
No, thank you.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully you'll call in again. I'll do another one in October.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you. Have a wonderful live stream. Yeah.
Thanks, you too. All right, good night, sir. All right, so wow, that was really cool. I don't get to talk to people from countries like that. That's super cool. All right, next, last call. So I'm gonna say no more calls because I gotta wrap it up. But I will take this last one. If you still have time by the time you get around to him, Mr. Blur would like to ask about the state of men's rights and ponder on what the specific goals of the men's rights movement are at this point in time. Well, that's a big question. I don't know that I'm qualified to answer that, but I'll bring Mr. Blur in here. So here we go. All right, Mr. Blur, hello. Hello. You are on the show. What's up?
All right. Good.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna be my last call. So right. Make it good. Blow our minds.
It's been a while since I called in.
Yeah. I don't know. Wait. You're the guy on Twitter though, right?
No, I'm not on Twitter.
That's Blue Blur. I got you mixed up with a different Blur. That's what it is. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's someone else. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay. All right. Well, it's probably for the best.
Right.
So what are your okay, so I read your statement, but go ahead. You can expand on that if you want.
Yeah, simplest version of my question is what is the goal of the men's rights movement? I know I've asked you this before, but I want to see if that answer's changed since then.
Well, I don't want to speak for the movement because I'm not really anybody. I mean, I think that the goal. You mean like the end goal? I mean the end goal should be like I guess that men and women are treated equally under the law, like with fairness or justice. But I think that I think it's a task that is probably not like within reach now, because in order for that conversation to take place, we have to be able to see men as like people of value that deserve attention. I don't want to say empathy, because I don't think men want empathy. I think they want respect. They want to earn recognition. But one of the ways that I think that's going to happen. So like the apparatus as it exists, like our cultural apparatus as it exists, it has nothing to offer men. Like it doesn't help them at all. In fact, it's openly hostile towards men. So the only thing that I think men can do just to get through that, for now anyway, is to find community with other men and people who are who care about them. To me, that's the only way, right? Like that's why Paul Elam started the XY crew, because he could see that no one in the mainstream was going to do anything about that. And I think that women are just going to have to get with the program. And I don't know, they're going to have to suffer before I think they notice. They're going to have to hit rock bottom. I don't know any other way. So I guess what I'm saying is, in the long term, I want our goals to be that our population is not collapsing, that men are forming families with women, and they're trying to be, virtuous, and the law thing includes parental rights, circumcision, all the basic stuff that we're always talking about. That men can be falsely accused of rape, that men can be raped by women, that women can be, just as evil. Like, these are simple things, but they're not easy because people don't want to see it that way. And there's too many people who are not just politically invested, but financially invested in making sure that these narratives remain as they are. And we're trying to equip people to push back. And it's working, by the way. I think that the message is getting out there. I think that more and more men are waking up. You can see this in the data that I talked about already, where I said young people. Well, the article on it was written by The Guardian, I think, and it said that more young men are moving right or becoming conservative. But I think that the language there is not fair because it's The Guardian. So think of it more like more men are, or young men are, becoming less like gynocentric. They're becoming more self-focused. They're not listening to women's complaints as much. Like, they're moving away from serving women, and I think they're trying to serve themselves or find their own way. And I think that because the language it's important to disseminate. When an outlet like The Guardian, I think it was The Guardian or Slate or something, when they say, "Oh, men are becoming right wing," like they don't mean literally the political aspect. They mean that they're not like the women. They're not, falling in line. And I think that they need to stop doing that. Unfortunately, women are moving the other way. But again, without men, at the end of the day, women are screwed. So I think that, to reiterate, and I'll shut up. We already know what the legal goals are, but I think for now, the most important thing is that men find space for themselves, and they have to protect it from women and male feminist busybodies. They have to. And I'm not just talking about hobbies. I mean, like anything, like guys need to form clubs. They need to form groups. I think they're doing that. I think that they are starting to do that. I'm seeing it more and more. And I think that the success of some of these dating podcasts that are coming up is evidence of that. It shows that men are watching and they're paying attention and they're looking at this in their everyday life, and it's, you know, I mean, that's what we're fighting against is like, you know, a kind of a propaganda campaign that started before we were born. So we're playing catch up, right? So anyway, those are my thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that's that's about where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Because it's like we've seen how the culture has shifted recently. So it's like, because on the one hand we have more and more men who are people paying attention, listening to podcasts, things like that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you also see the mainstream going berserk, because the men's issues have become so I guess prominent now that to ignore it is just to be it's just like saying, please don't trust your lying eyes.
Yeah.
but it's like they don't, at the same time, they don't have an answer that doesn't involve feminism, and we already know that feminism is just fundamentally broken. So any answer that it could come up with is going to also be fundamentally broken, and then men will recognize that it's broken and go somewhere where they're actually wanted.
Yep.
But my thing is, we have the long-term goals, but in the short term, when you think of men's rights, the first thing people that come to mind are not people like Janice Fiamengo or Steve Brule or Paul or Warren or the Badgers or any of them. No, the first thing that comes to most people's minds will be people like Jordan Peterson, who has either hit or miss mostly, and the media mostly hates him, or people like Andrew Tate, who couldn't be more different from Jordan if he tried,
I know.
But they'd lump him together anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, because the media doesn't have an interest in treating this conversation fairly. This is why I don't bother, like, you know, making the case for or against Peterson or Tate. I just leave it. Like, if it's like preventing men from, like, you know, deleting themselves, and the only thing that keeps them from doing that is watching Peterson or watching, you know, Tate or whatever, then I say go for it. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, it would be really nice if people sent folks our way, or Paul's way, or Janice's way, you know. And I think it's starting to happen. I am supposed to be having an interview with Pearl, like, soonish, hopefully. We just got to set a day, but Pearl is going to come on the show, and so you guys can prepare whatever burning questions you might have for her, and I'll try to ask them. But I mean, the most important reason for having Pearl on is not to it's so that the degrees of separation between people like Peterson and Tate and people like us and Janice and Warren Farrell is that much smaller. So, because I think the real, I don't know, wisdom, I guess, in this fight, for lack of a better word, is going to come from groups like ours. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm saying like this, at least, right? Because Tate's kind of, well, I got criticisms of him that I think are fair, but it's not. It's fine. Like, it's in the ballpark, but it's not quite right. And I think the same thing about Jordan, and I think the same thing about Rollo as well. So, I'm not being like, you know, I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just saying, like, the stuff that Allison and Karen and Warren and Paul and Janice talk about are the most important things. And I don't think that you know, I don't even think Pearl gets it, but I appreciate what Pearl's doing. Your phone is ringing or something. I'm getting like some music on your end.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
I might have to I may have to cut this short.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So, do you have any final thoughts, and I'll let you go? Or should I just take you into the screening room? Hello? I'm gonna move him to the screening room. Mr. Blur, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. This is a good, successful show, in my opinion. So let me know what your thoughts are on vasectomies. Do you think that it's a bit extreme? Did you get one? How much did it cost? What about reversing it? I understand that reversing is more expensive and it's not guaranteed, and it's like more invasive, I guess. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments. And also, what are your comments on some of the people who called in? What are your thoughts on that? What do you think about feminism being in Africa? I'm not surprised. Feminism's in the Middle East. Like, it's in fucking Iran, like Iraq and shit, Afghanistan. Like, they have feminism there. So why wouldn't it be in Africa? Why wouldn't it be in Japan or South Korea? It's probably in North Korea. Hell, North Korea is probably run by feminists. Australia's got it bad. New Zealand is screwed. Iceland is probably feminist. Sweden, there's no escaping it. If there's men and women there, there's some brand of feminism there. So, and that's basically everywhere. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Do you have any thoughts on what Mr. Blur said in terms of like what we should be sort of pushing towards? I think male spaces, a big one in the immediate. The as reaction to that Starfinder game or whatever the fuck it's called. That's a really good example. Like, gaming was a male-dominated space, and it is slowly being eaten away from the inside out. And most of the people responsible for this, by the way, are simps. So we gotta do something about the simps, guys. Something's got to be done. We need a final solution to the simps. But anyway, that's something that we could probably work on, is maybe like get men to stop simping. I think if we can find maybe we need like a lesson plan, like some kind of curriculum, some kind of like mission to end simping. We have the end simping in men. So I don't know. Let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Let us know what you think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you all so much for coming on today's Badger Lodge call-in show. I'll see you guys next month for the next call-in show, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.